what's happening? Welcome to the Pleasure Points podcast. I'm your host, James Rohr. I'm super stoked that you're here. It took us only about 40 episodes or so, but we finally got to actually talking about pleasure, just straight up pleasure. In this episode, I'm joined by a very dear friend, Michelle Alva. She used to be a physical therapist, and now she is fully committed and devoted to Tantra and helping people to explore all aspects of being the best version of themselves, the most free, the most liberated, and certainly when it comes to sexually, that's a big part of it. Michelle was also the officiant at our wedding. She married Jennifer and I. And most recently, she gave us a couples tantra session where she was teaching us like certain strokes and body positioning to increase intimacy. And it was awesome because it wasn't even like sexual. There was definitely sensual parts of it, but it was just so much more about this exploration of each other's bodies and seeing, areas where there can be more freedom. So you'll hear us reference that session here in the podcast. So I just think that the work that she's doing takes a tremendous amount of courage, and it's so needed. So she shares a lot of powerful things here. I hope you enjoyed as much as I did. You can check her work out at michellealva.com. That's michellealva.com. And as always, if you're interested more in the work that I do, you can check out what I'm doing over at invitinginlove.com. And you can check me out on Instagram at James E. Rohr. So without any further ado, please let's welcome Michelle Alva to the show. Hey, Michelle.
Hi, Jim. I'm so happy to be here on Pleasure Points. I can feel the pleasure already.
Yeah, this is like a perfect title for you.
I know.
I've been waiting to have you on the podcast.
I love your podcast.
Now the time is right.
You're so cool. Thank you for having me. I'm really grateful.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. So the last time that we were just talking here before we recorded about how you've actually had to give up your physical therapy license in order to do like this tantric work that you're so called to.
Yeah, life is funny, isn't it?
Yeah, talk a little bit about, because I just find the legalities of this stuff to be like so fascinating and infuriating and all that. But you seem to have handled it with a tremendous amount of grace and enthusiasm. So like what's the issue with you doing this tantric work that didn't work with your physical therapy license?
Well, I mean, in a nutshell, you can only be a physical therapist if you're doing physical therapy. So just like a doctor, any healthcare profession, it's not really, I was wondering I wonder why there's not so many physical therapists that are Tantra practitioners, but I guess now I know why.
Yeah.
So long story short, things have happened that have caused me to have to relinquish my license if I really want to have the freedom to explore other areas of healing. And I have so much compassion now for the world because I think there's a lot of fear with sexuality and taboo and judgment. I was all that. I used to live scared of my own sexuality. Mm-hmm. And so it's perfectly fitting that this would happen to me. And but the reason why I keep going is because, I'm 46 years old. I feel like I'm 28. I hardly ever get sick. I just feel I really have tapped into joy. Mm-hmm. I have to say, working with you as my coach, my love coach, has helped me in that arena very, awesome. Very, very, very much. And just you and Jennifer inspire me so much to what's possible to live soul-guided, which is not linear. And this is what I feel when we work in healing. It is not reductionistic. It is not Newtonian. And healing, rapid healing, when people go into remission, we can't explain those things. Mm-hmm. So coming from a very musculoskeletal, anatomical, Newtonian way of practicing, I'm doing a disservice if I'm only working with people that way, when so much of what I'm seeing, chronic pain, has to do with people's emotions and how we struggle with processing our past in our body tissues and how real it is that myself, having held shame and guilt from a sexual trauma experience when I was 14, developed chronic pain in my cervix, in my pelvis, and holding tension there and thinking that sex is painful. Mm-hmm. So for me, I can't be quiet about it. It is real, folks, and I'm sure there's people out there that have tried many different ways of helping themselves with chronic pain in their pelvis, and maybe this actually may be the one thing to help them process that years and years and years of pain. And I work with people over the phone. So it blows me away with what's possible. And if anything, that's what I wish to keep exploring in my life, is what is possible for us, and how can we liberate ourselves from our own mental limitations of what we think is possible for healing. So people with chronic pain out there, I'm here to let you know that you can be your own source of freedom from that if you wish to invite more of that possibility into your life.
And that there's a pleasurable life that awaits.
If you choose to be open to that.
To do that work.
Like I thought my body was just chronic pain. I thought that my life was supposed to be really hard and a lot of drama. And I have discovered that I think I was addicted to drama and suffering.
Right.
And to then have to wake up to that reality that, oops, I keep creating and recreating. And is that really what I want, or am I functioning from my programming? Because I had a lot of drama in my childhood.
Were you in physical pain? I don't think I knew that about you. Did you have like physical pain?
Pretty much in my vagina. I mean, it's not something I would say, hey, Jim, my vagina hurts. Just wanted to share that with you, you know?
Right.
I mean, I was ashamed, and I didn't really want to even face that in myself. I was living disconnected and dissociated pretty much. And I wondered why.
Did you have a diagnosis for it?
No.
Was it like a pelvic floor dysfunction?
No, I never went to a pelvic floor person, and I was a physical therapist.
Were you diagnosed with things like chronic UTIs or any of that stuff, or did you just
no, just sex was painful for me
or something?
Sex was painful for me. I didn't even want to go to anybody, because then that would mean that it was real. It was something I was just hiding. I was hiding from myself.
During intercourse?
Yeah. That's it, pretty much. And I was so tight around my hips. And I mean, my tendency is to hold. So Baddha Konasana for me is a massive part of my life. And so I realized that I had these patterns of holding, just chronic holding, that I didn't even realize I had until I became more relaxed. And through yoga and meditation, belly dance, moving my hips and pelvis activated memories. And I didn't want to belly dance. I wanted to stop. But then I realized, wait a minute, there's something here that I can't ignore. Basically, I feel eventually something happens that you just can't ignore yourself.
Yeah.
And then that's my midlife crisis, which came early.
Well, one of the things that Jen and I talk about often with you is that we were celebrating after you did the lovely Tantra session for us as the wedding present, in addition to marrying us, is like you know, the courage that you have to pursue this, right? I mean, it's like you've let go of a physical therapy license. You've probably spent, I mean, I would imagine close to 6 figures, right? At least, like getting that license and then working in that field, and then to choose, it's like I'm going to let this go. I'm going to give this up so that I can
feel I'm gaining something more, actually. I'm gaining freedom.
For sure.
I don't really feel, I've come to understand that we're never actually losing anything. I do have this piece about Creator that is always gifting us if we choose to perceive it that way. So what I've come to understand is that everything is just a perception. We could be, and it's a choice. It's a choice. Do I want to drive myself nuts and feel in lack? I've done that already. Or do I want to just say, well, hey, you know, what can I learn from this? How can I grow from this? And believe me, folks, it's not easy, but to the best of my ability, this is how I'm coming into my own life, because I'm realizing I am the only one that is responsible for my own life. So I may as well grow from my own life rather than continue to hurt myself, which I'm done. I'm done abusing myself. I am done with that habit of sabotaging and pushing things away. And I mean, I discovered hypnosis because of this, shamanism, energy healing, psyche, discovering energy psychology and just different ways of healing that I feel I'm really curious. And Tantra, I mean, as you've experienced, I feel every couple that is going to get married, definitely that should be and I'm saying should here because these are my beliefs, that I feel, what would the divorce rate be if everybody was tantric?
Right.
I mean, you would never be bored. It would always be exciting and creative and alive. And who doesn't want that?
Right. So can you explain to people what Tantra is for people that might not know?
Sure. Well, Tantra means to weave, the word Tantra, and it insinuates pretty much to live your life in a nutshell from a full experience of all of who you are. So that means embracing whatever feelings or emotions come up in every moment and not suppressing anything. So for example, right now, if I got really emotional and I felt like crying, to be tantric would be to allow myself whatever that was. And yet so many times we're limiting that full spectrum of being by suppressing our emotions. So a lot of us are living without even feeling, actually. And when we talk about depression, a lot of people are depressed and anxious. So we're not even in our bodies and feeling, and that's a lot because we've had trauma. So Tantra is a way of being where you're inviting your whole presence through all your senses and embracing that you are an energetic being in a physical body that's mostly energy. And for me, it's helped me to really feel deeper and to live in a more fulfilled relationship with myself. And it translates into your sexual experience. That's why a lot of people associate it with sex,
right?
To a richer, fuller sexual experience because it's energetic also. And so much of sexuality is energy flowing. However, so many of us that are in our heads when we're making love, we never even taste that energy. We never even get an exposure to it. So there's many different practices to practice embodying your wholeness through Tantra. So breathing, using sound, movement, and your intention. And those are the four that weave together. So pretty much your mind, your body, your breath is in yoga. But there's more of an emphasis on just feeling the whole human experience and the energetic human. So you're living in a energetic, physical presencing in your life and really allowing everything that you are to be fully expressed and fully felt. And hence authenticity.
Which can be terrifying, right? I mean, for people that have been locked up and tight and holding and, reacting to trauma like that, kind of the freedom.
Who am I? Who am I
to
actually feel my own feelings? Like for me, I didn't matter. I mean, you have to remember, I'm talking about this sitting here because I did not feel the full spectrum of my feeling most of my life. So us healing people tend to be more healing ourselves. We do the things, we go to the things that we need the most. So I think a lot of us are like, if you just take a moment, whoever's listening, ask yourself, am I really living from my own heart's desires and passions? Do I even feel passionate in my life? Do I feel passion? Do I feel joy? Do I feel excited to wake up in the morning and go to work? And am I excited about my life? Do I really feel fulfilled living as myself? And I have discovered that a lot of us are living for other people. A lot of us are living for our culture, for our religion, for our limited beliefs of what we think we're supposed to be to make our parents happy. And then they're 80 years old and we're 50 years old or 45 and we're still living on that program. I mean, I'm saying this because I see it so often. And then we wonder why we have something happen to us. 40 to 50 years old seems to be like a magical time where the body's like, dude, I can't do this anymore. Wake up. Can we please live from our own desires? It's almost as though the body carries so much stress because it's not really living fulfilled within itself. It's as though it's our nature to live aligned. If we live aligned and really connected to our purpose or our truth, however you want to express that, maybe there's another word, your dharma, everything seems to flow more easily. Your body actually enjoys being in your purpose, living on purpose. If you're living for others, I have a feeling the body suffers and the body lets you know. At least this is what my experience. I'd love to hear what other people have to say about that. So the sessions I offer are times for people to really be clear and access their intuition, access their soul, access their heart. And sometimes that scares them, and that's why they run the other direction. When they see me, it's almost like they know. They're like, I'm not ready for you, Michelle. Oh my gosh, it's so funny.
That's like the joke with Jen where I used to treat her and she came to see me for a few times and then she like disappeared for like a year and then she came back in again and I was like, where have you been? And she was like, I didn't really want to hear whatever you had to say. So how do you work with somebody, or like, what advice or direction would you give to somebody who might be hearing this right now and they're sitting there in their car listening to it and they're just thinking to themselves like, I don't have any idea what I want.
Yeah.
They may be so disconnected from that. They've never really thought about putting themselves first. Like, where do you begin with somebody like that?
Well, first and foremost, you don't have to live this way. So I'm probably not the norm. I don't know if you noticed that, Jim. However, I'm really happy and joyful, and I'm all by myself. Like, I have such a fun adventure just being, And so you don't have to live this way. You can totally live for your family. You can totally live for your job and hate it. And so there's nothing wrong with you. Wherever you're at, this is really important because I can only share my perspective. Mm-hmm. So for anybody that is curious and like, okay, this woman, she sounds really fun, something inside of me is calling me that I'm curious about her. The very first step is to just, I would say, be grateful for who you are right now and everything that's happened to you in your past that has led you to this moment where you are maybe waking up to something else. Mm-hmm. And if you're totally confused, be so grateful that you met me because I can guide you. And it all starts with your divine diaphragm. Mm. So I'm touching myself right now between my ribs and my abdomen. And there's this breathing exercise that I call the E3 breath. It's extension, expansion, elongation breath, where it guides you to really move your diaphragm through its full range of motion. And so the diaphragm is the muscle of inspiration, the primary one that we stimulate our parasympathetic nervous system, the relaxation response. So if you want to know yourself more and you want to be more centered and more connected to who you really are, learn to really tap into your diaphragm. And I have this video that I can share. It's on my website. If people go to michellealva.com, you can download it and it will teach you how to access the full range of motion of your diaphragm. So when that happens, you're literally going deep inside and you're going to have some epiphany or some clarity or some download of something, or you may just cry because you're realizing, oh my God, where's my diaphragm? It's so contracted, it's so tight. Mm-hmm. So this is where going into the body never lies. So I highly recommend that anybody that wants to get more connected to massage your belly right there where your ribs meet your abdomen, mm-hmm. and really touch yourself, touch your diaphragm, get to know it. Because there's memories in there. It's amazing. Like if your parents ever said, shut up, be quiet, stop doing that, go to your room. Oh, like mm-hmm. that type of energy makes a person contract. And I've literally worked on people where I'm guiding them to massage their own diaphragm, their own belly, and they'll see their dad yelling at them, mm-hmm. or something happened and a memory will come up. So just to be able to go there and touch yourself there, that's the first place where it begins, this desire and willingness to have a more fulfilling life. The more you are connected to your true self, you automatically are bringing into your life all people that are really loving you for who you really are, the job that is ideal, that's really meant for you. If we're fake and we're lying to ourselves and we're breathing with our upper chest, we're just going to attract more inauthenticity, more dissatisfying experiences because they're not really tickling your heart. Mm. And so it's really, do I want to live a juicier, more fun and delicious orgasmic life, or do I just want to be like frozen food and disconnected and dry? It's really a choice, but right. The thing is, a lot of people don't realize that it is a choice. Yeah. And it really is like the dry vagina, the dryness. If you have a lot of dryness, ladies, definitely get in touch with me because you can get juicy. There's nothing wrong with you. It's just you're not as in touch with your relaxation response. The relaxation response, which is diaphragm access, get to know your diaphragm, is going to help you to be more in the oxytocin love hormone state, mm-hmm. which is going to make it easier for you to get juicy and wet and moist and live in a different direction. And pretty much it's all neuroplasticity. Mm-hmm. changing how your brain functions. Pretty much that's what this work is all about, is shifting from a chronically stressed, traumatic holding, frozen, to a juicy, alive, processing, richly feeling. And to go there means we're going to have to feel all our shit that we've been holding for years. And so this is where people like us are there to hold space and be, like doulas, to help people hold space and process themselves, because we all have this within ourselves. Pretty much if everybody just spent time holding themselves. And I suggest a lot to hug a pillow and pretend that's you when you were a child. So a lot of inner child healing. If everyone just made time, put your timer on for 5 minutes and just pretend you're holding your little version of yourself when you were young, and ask yourself, how was my childhood? Did I feel safe? Did people listen to me, or was I pushed away? Was I able to run into my parents' arms and cry? Did I feel welcome? How did I feel? And just be with that. You'd be surprised how much comes up. And what I've discovered is that we are so powerful when we give our clients the power back to themselves to actually feel and flow themselves, miracles happen. Right. So that makes my job a lot easier. And the way that I work with people is a lot about go inside, close your eyes, feel, and expand into wherever you're feeling the most restricted. So it's not rocket science. It's not anything, people are always like, what's the best technique I can learn, and you seem to be always happy. And so that's so not true, as you know, Jim. Right. It's really about, let's be whatever's, coming up for us. And then let's be our own best friend. Let's hold space for ourselves. Let's allow whatever comes up to come up, instead of blocking ourselves. Especially myself, being someone who gives a lot, I used to put a lot of pressure on myself that I need to be happy, or that I need to be whatever. And so that doesn't work. That's coming from my ego, that I think I have to be something. Right. So now that I'm more aware of how I do that, and it doesn't feel good, I'm enough just being. And that's something I'm practicing now, is to lean back, as you've taught me, and just feel that I'm worthy. Yeah. And I don't have to need to be more than what I am. So I'm learning too,
You do such a great job of creating a safe space. It's like, from the first time I've ever had a session with you, it's like, oh, this is a woman who it's a judgment-free zone, and you're so passionate about this inner exploration, it's like, it's beautiful. I think it's absolutely tremendous. And I love the synergy with your physical therapy background, your knowledge of anatomy, attachments, the origins, insertions, movement,
fascia,
positioning, all of that stuff, and then now to have all of these layers and textures of the spiritual and the psycho-spiritual that you are adding to it from when I first met you, whatever it was, 8 years ago or something.
Yeah.
It's just
shamanism,
I
love
tremendous.
The shamanic, the rituals, intention plus action. I feel that the shamans were onto something big time, and how much of it is hypnotic, the drumming.
Sure.
It's really all hypnotic and bringing us into theta. Imagine if more people drummed. And these are things people have been doing for thousands and thousands of years, if not more,
we have a drum, right? We have our heartbeats.
Yes.
But it's are we listening? Are we giving ourselves the space and the time to tap into our original drum beat?
That's beautiful. I love that.
And then, you said something that I was thinking before you came here that we'd probably end up talking about it, because it's something that I think about often, and I'm certainly thinking about it after the Tantra session that we had, and you used the phrase that is thrown around often with body workers, right? Is that the body stores memories, the body stores emotions. And I was curious to hear what your sort of thoughts are about that, of what the mechanism of that might be. Is it actually that, cells in the hamstring have imprinted, this experience of being younger or trauma or something like that? Or is there some sort of neural connection that you think as to how that works? And, I think any body worker experientially will tell you,
I can give you an example.
Storing the emotion.
All I can talk about is from my experience and working with clients. And so personally for me, when I took a 3-hour Mula Bandha, a pelvic floor yoga class when I was 28 years old. And I had the sexual trauma happen when I was 14. So 14 years later, I go to a 3-hour pelvic floor class, and all we did for 3 hours was do different yoga postures while squeezing our pelvic floor. When I got home, I was exhausted, but I was exhausted in a different way that I don't think I ever felt before. I felt raw. I felt kind of emotional, but I wasn't really sure. Things were coming up, I guess. So I'm 28 years old. I think I'm a badass yoga person, doing a lot of Bikram yoga. And I take this pelvic floor class, and I took a bath, and I was in a hot bath, in my condo. And I just was breathing and just relaxing because I felt really out of it. And all of a sudden, I had this memory come back when I was raped, when I had that first sexual experience, which for me felt like a rape. He wasn't yelling at me and like beating me or anything, but I didn't want it to happen. I didn't want that to happen, but I didn't say anything. I froze. And for me, that was the most traumatic experience at age 14 because I was raised Catholic, and you're supposed to get married and then have sex. So I was very by the book because my mom's very like that. And I felt, where do I fit in? Like, I'm not a virgin. I am only 14. And so when that happened to me, I was very ashamed. I felt really guilty. I thought God didn't love me anymore. So I hexed myself. It's as though I put a spell on myself that I'm dirty. Like in Charlie Brown, that's what I think. I felt I was this dirty, wherever I go, there's this gray cloud. I'm not a virgin, but then I can't tell anyone. So it was something I was hiding. And I was so ashamed. And I was so freaking hard on myself, like I've been hard on myself about everything in the past. And when I was 28 years old in the bathtub, 3 hours after that Mula Bandha thing, I had that memory come up, which up until that point, I don't think I ever thought about that first sexual experience. So how is it that I stored that for 14 years? And I started crying in the bathtub at age 28. And I heard these words like, you're a whore, you're a slut, you're damaged. I heard them like pass by my ear. It was a very real experience. And then all of a sudden, this tingling down my legs. It was bizarre. I was like, okay, what's going on here? And I just kept breathing and breathing. And then I hugged myself and I cried. I said, you're not a whore, you're not a slut. And I just felt this love all of a sudden. And it left my body. I felt like it literally left through my feet.
Wow.
And it was very real to me. But at the same time, I was like, oh my God, what is this? What's happening to me? And then I was wondering, is this prana? Is this what I'm learning in yoga? But I feel I was learning yoga more from my head. Yeah. I was more of reading the Yoga Sutras, making sure I'm doing it all right, and coming from this place of I'm not enoughness. Yeah. So I was a yogi that was not feeling worthy. So I have to overdo it in my postures and prove it to myself that I'm worthy because I'm doing my downward dog perfectly aligned. And I took all the fun out of my life, pretty much. Right. So after that experience, I was very confused because I thought, after that, I made love again and it didn't hurt me anymore. Wow. That was the whole point of that story is I had no pain after that. Cathartic release. Yeah, just to keep it very, G-rated. The story now at this point. And then I set on a quest, to discover healing and what happened, and oh my God, I think we hold emotions in our bodies. And then learning myofascial release, craniosacral therapy, somato-emotional release. Sure. And then asking, well, why aren't we teaching this more? Why aren't we talking about this more? Why aren't we? And one day somebody said to me, well, why don't you do something about that? And this is what led me to create an integrative way of working with my clients where I work first with the mindset using NLP and hypnosis and a lot of the neuroplasticity work from Dr. Joe Dispenza, Bruce Lipton, Greg Braden. Sure. I mean, those are amazing mentors of mine that I've taken lots of courses with over the years, and the biology of belief and epigenetics. And so really tapping into what's your mindset in your body about this. So what's your vibration? And so when we talk about emotions, just to get back to your question, I believe that somehow the body, we're protecting ourselves. So your body's so smart that it doesn't want you to keep suffering. So it shuts down and you forget about certain things that maybe were too painful to be conscious about at that time. And so we have a choice. We can keep breathing and allow it to process, or we may hold it and want to avoid it. And so I think a lot of us are actually walking around suppressed.
Sure.
Not having processed, but we didn't know any better. We just functioned like that to survive.
Right.
And I was one of those people. And so what happens in the sessions, it's like when there's a boiling pot of water and there's a lid on it, and the lid starts to shake because there's so much steam that wants to come out. So we have a choice. We can keep the lid on and try to keep everything together and contained, or we could just lift the lid off and the steam will evaporate that boiling water. And so the sessions that I work with people, I feel we're just taking the lid off and allowing their steam of their memories to just dissipate through their tissues. And I literally can feel it leaving their body.
Yeah.
It's just, it just comes off you. When you do this certain Alva method approach, that's
Right.
A, B, C, D, E. It always works because it's always going to take you to the same place if you give permission to it. So I don't work with everyone.
Right.
You have to actually want to shift and transform. And not everybody, it is disrespectful of me to assume that everyone wants that, know?
Right.
And that's the thing where I post something about a client that had an 8 out of 10 chronic pain for 30 years and they cleared their shoulder pain in one session. And I'm assuming everybody's going to be like, I want that. Yeah. And yet so many people are like, okay, how's that possible? What exactly did you do? And I said, well, actually, I didn't do much. It was about him forgiving himself because he was too hard on himself when he was playing softball at age 17. And he was really angry because he overdid it and then he wasn't able to play anymore. So that bitterness carried him for 30 years until he liberated himself just with my guidance.
Sure.
So that's how amazing you are all out there and all of us. And that's the possibilities we can create if we wish to believe in ourselves rather than I'm just going to have cortisone shots for the rest of my life. That's something you might want to believe, or take a drug or get a surgery. And most of the people that have had the surgeries, I have to say, most of them are still in pain because they have the emotional pain. So that's another one where the surgery doesn't take away your emotional pain. And that's where I feel it behooves us to create approaches that actually address the emotional pain.
One of my favorite clinical stories was my first year of practice. I had a colleague, this acupuncturist I was working with, and this guy came in with, I think it was shoulder pain, and he was scheduled for surgery, but he was in like such bad pain. The surgery was scheduled for like Tuesday, and this was a Friday. The guy was in such bad pain that he was like, I can't make it through the weekend without, like, I need something. My buddy gave him a treatment. Shoulder pain disappears. So the guy called, my buddy the acupuncturist calls him on Monday to be like, hey, just checking in, like, how's everything going? He's still pain-free. The guy's like, yeah, I feel amazing. And so my buddy was like, great, so you canceled your surgery? And the guy was like, fuck no, I didn't cancel my surgery. I'm going in tomorrow. And I remember hearing that, and I was naive and young, my first year, and I was just like, what? Like, what's wrong with people,
What's the programming?
Yeah. And it's like, it's just amazing.
This is why we work with hypnosis. This is why, but then again, some people will say, well, you can't hypnotize me. So those are not the people that I work with, you see? Yeah. This is something else that I've learned, that you can't just put people on my schedule, because if you're not willing to work for yourself, I can't do anything to help you if you don't want to help yourself. And it's disrespectful of me to assume that you do want to help yourself.
Right.
So this is something that really the universe gave me lots of lessons to learn, that we're all on different journeys. It's up to you if you want to be orgasmic and have multiple orgasms and have an amazing orgasmic, sexual, creative, pleasurable life. Yeah. Or you can just have none of that. It's your choice what you want to cultivate in your body and with your soul. And I'm really grateful to have shared, if there's anything else you want me to...
Yeah, do that when you're dating too, right?
Yes, thank you.
People are who they are. They want to be who they are.
Don't try to change them.
And we either can choose to love that or not, And then I like to listen to be like, okay, who do you think you want to become? And then it's like, are you going to be like, are you taking action? You get to watch. That's why we date, right? Is this person taking action steps towards the person they say they want to be? All right, and that gives us a tremendous amount of data about, like, is that someone that I want to be with?
Well, that's to me what I've learned is love is not about telling someone what they're supposed to.
Right.
Love is just holding space. And it's interesting because maybe that's why I did begin this way of healing approach. Because like I said before, I'm working on the things that I'm teaching, right? So this is every teacher out there. They may not say that, but I'm so transparent that out of I say that we turn our shit into fertilizer to grow. So shit stands for strengthen, heal, imagine something new, and thrive. And so I was not holding space for myself. I was not able to hold space for anybody. And, that's why my marriage didn't last. And therefore I was so committed to not marrying the same relationship that I've really allowed myself the time, 8 years, to explore what is love and what is it to be loving. And what I've come to understand is, oh, I'm love. We are love. And actually, we're not getting it from anyone. And we're just love flowing. And whoever we meet is just a beautiful reminder of all the things we love about ourselves, right? And we basically connect with whoever we like the most. Ourselves that we see ourselves with. So I'm so grateful to have you and Jen as my mentors in that, because you guys are definitely doing it, in my opinion, the soulful way of growing and thriving together instead of being cellmates, you're soulmates.
Yeah.
And so people out there,
it's still early.
Look at their, trust me, I know. And I knew it before any of this, even like I saw it. Okay. Remember that?
I remember.
Where we can, sometimes a lot of people I think are scared of, and this is me projecting, oh my God, can I really be in that amazing relationship with myself and then share it with someone, and for me to live like that. And this is where I'm so grateful. We have to do a session with Jen, where it is true, folks. I'm vouching here that they're so inspiring, just being around them. It's so peaceful. It's so fun. And just, I'm so grateful that I get to be reminded, because right now I feel I'm onto something with my own relationship with myself.
Yeah.
That every day I am committing and recommitting to honoring myself. Yeah. And that's been my own journey.
Well, I think you've got one of the key ingredients that I think is probably the most pivotal ingredient when it comes to relationships that I'm like really kindness is always there, but there's like this thing, and you bring it into your clinical work as well, which I really appreciate, which is just curiosity. And like my experience with a Tantra session with you was, and when Jen was there, when we were doing it, it was like, there was an element of like, okay, let's just be curious to what happens. Like, like we touch here. This is for me what Tantra is for me, right? It's like not an expert, just like a dude, but it's like, when I touch here, what's the reaction, right? When I touch here, what happens? Does she soften? Does she breathe differently? Does her posture change? Do things start to shift? And obviously, highly trained as a body worker helps being able to notice things. So some guy off the street may not be able to like have
present,
that kind of attunement, but it can certainly grow. You can do it, but it's bringing that level of curiosity. And, your work as solo, right? Just like as the recipient of the person who was being worked on, was tremendous. Like, okay, let's be curious. Like, what happens when your inner thigh is touched? What happens when this stroke is applied to the body, and see what comes up there, right? And do a great job of coaching for that. But then also, like, as you were teaching me to touch Jen and teaching Jen to touch me, it's like at the core of that is just this kind of curiosity of like, I'm this person, she's her person, and like, we're having this experience together.
And it's alive, and it's here, and it's only ever going to be here. And it keeps us in the aliveness. That's what it's brought to me too.
Relationships, like that's the key, is like, if we can, like like we said our vows, and like at the top of it for me is like holding that kind of curiosity. If I can continue to be curious about her, what she's thinking, what she's doing, how she's feeling, what she cares about, and like if we can still engage in that kind of like frequency, I think that's great. And one of the things I tell my dating clients all the time is like, curiosity is like a superpower. If you can really be curious about someone,
you'll never get bored.
Not to like be judgmental about it, or not have like strict ideas of how that person should live, but just be curious about it.
And when you disagree, what I'm learning too, just because of something recently that happened, is to be curious about your differences and to be understanding that you don't always have to get along. You can actually have respectful differences, when you're, you see it like that. Okay, interesting. You're a totally different person that came from a totally different background. Of course, we don't agree on everything.
Yeah.
So it's going to be really fun when I do decide to be in that one-on-one. Super fun. And can't wait to meet him.
So, a lot of this stuff comes back to the root chakra, right? I mean, your personal experience had a lot to do that. A lot of women that I've coached and worked with and my own stuff as well. It's like, the root chakra and the second chakra. Why do you think that the hips and the pelvis and even the reproductive organs store so much more? Why is that such a collecting point for blocked energy?
Well, the creative energy is also the emotional energy and the abundance flow energy. So the sacral chakra has to do with emotions, abundance, money flow too, and creativity. So that's one of the reasons. And also, I'm thinking of a dog with their tail in between their legs when they're scared. The tailbone, we don't have tails, but we have energetic tails. And so if you, let's just say as a child, you felt scared because your parents yelled at you, or maybe there was a bully when you were a child, or let's just say even potty training. Maybe somebody touched you. 1 out of every 4 women are touched inappropriately. I don't know what the statistic is for men, but so if you're touched, or if your parents are not, there's taboo for men. Let's just say the first time you touch yourself, you masturbate, and somebody catches you. This has happened too with clients where they associate sex with shame. And that shame causes us to tense up because that's fear related. So when we're in fear mode, the proximal muscles tense up. The inner thighs tense up. So there's certain muscles like the shoulders tense up, the jaw, that are always going to get more tense. And when you're stressed out, when that flight or fight response, when we want to run. So a lot of people are holding in their inner thighs, in their hips, low back tension, fear. And so this is where we can do the expansion, the opening of the body as a way of resetting the nervous system. But that's not enough to just open the body. It's also important to enhance your diaphragmatic breathing time of your day. Spend more time breathing with your diaphragm so that you can reset your nervous system. And as far as the sexual, I think a lot of us, when you think about sexuality, and if I could ask every single person, how's your sexuality life? What do you think about your sexuality? Do you feel empowered sexually? I would think most people have no idea.
Right.
Because where do you learn about sexual empowerment? Most people's experience with sex is porn, right? And whatever experiences you've had, which a lot of, can you imagine in, let's just say middle school, that you learn a class about sexual empowerment? This is your pleasure zones. They're actually very healing parts where you have a lot of pleasure nerve endings, and you can actually, orgasm is very healing, and it's actually a beautiful practice to expand your orgasm and whole body orgasm. And if people actually learned, pre-teens even, 10-year-olds, 11-year-olds, 12-year-olds, you would really feel more empowered to use that energy and harness it for creativity and just having natural energy flow. And people might have a taboo about that whole thing, but we are sexual beings. So for us to deny that part of us stresses us out. It naturally stresses us out. If our parents have certain religious beliefs that cause you to think that that's dirty, that that's nasty to touch yourself, you're closing off by stressing yourself out because you're meant to be free. And so I believe that those are the parts of the body where we do hold a lot of shame. What is a man's first sexual experience? Usually it's masturbation. And there's a lot of taboo about masturbation, right? Just if we generalize it. So I think a man's first sexual experience is a lot with shame. And then women, that's a whole other story, depending on her religion and her beliefs and how she feels about her body. So when we do talk about sexuality, how many of us are actually living a healthy sexual life? And then what does that mean? Because there's so much in the range of norm, right?
Yeah.
Which is not normal. Actually, we're like all over the place with our sexuality. And so it just becomes this much taboo area that people rather not talk about. And that's why I'm here, because I have experienced so many beautiful, sacred, sexual experiences through this work in different ways. And even working with couples has been such a beautiful thing to witness people that are breaking down those walls of shame and judgment, and then for people to cry and realize, oh my God, I can't believe how much my mom has been limiting my own joy in my marriage, and the woman's 35 years old. So I witness this every day, and that's why I keep going, because for that one person to have benefited, it makes it so worth it. And sex is not dirty. Sex is not anything that has to ever be ashamed. And, just the way we also massage people, like when I get a massage, at the standard, let's just say, and how they're so good about covering me and, making sure that my thigh is not overexposed. With Tantra massage, there's no sheet, it's just the whole body is massaged, and there's this sense of freedom. And this is where I think it's so beautiful for married couples that are in a partnership, to massage each other and really explore the freedom of your body and feel what that feels like with no sheet.
Right. Yeah, it was awesome. I mean, like when you were doing that with Jen and I, it was like, again, like you created a safe place, and it was also, there was I don't feel like I'm somebody who's stifled, but it's like I'd never had someone, massage me like with my ass in the air like that,
Root massage.
And there was like a
very
liberation,
freeing, right?
To it. Yeah,
it's very
for
freeing.
sure.
I feel that these are rapid transformation approaches, that if you want to really shift rapidly, get your ass in the air. You know what I'm saying? Like open up. There it is. That's as open as you could be, possibly. And so for people that are open to being open, that are tired of their story, I tend to attract a lot of clients like that are sick and tired of being sick and tired, and they've spent thousands of dollars on many different things. That really, the root is really about getting to your own root. And this is what I'm doing in my life, and of course that's how I'm serving people.
Right. One of the things that I was really surprised by, because as a dude, right, I mean, you just have your dick and like it's there and you can see it, was that as I was like hearing more about the women's movement and like Mama Gina and some of the sexual stuff and the sexual liberation things, was how many women haven't actually looked at their vaginas. And it was just something that, I mean, I would have never thought about it, right? And then when I started reading about that, where they like have people sit with a mirror, right, and like look at yourself, and then even the whatever it's
meditation,
called, where like the guys, the person who's doing the massaging, like they have
20 minutes,
they have to like just say an observation of like, oh, like your clitoral hood is like this, right? It's not a judgment, but it's just an observation to like continue to see the vagina, and it was like, I just thought that was so fascinating and like naive, and maybe because I was like, I don't have the parts, so I don't know, but it's like, and you gotta like, it takes effort to see like that power source, whereas for
and how
guys
you
and like
feel
the
about
statues, it's like this giant dick is out there, and you're like, oh, like I'm the wild man.
But how you feel about your vagina affects your vagina. This is what I don't know if a lot of women know, that how you actually feel about it creates your physiology. So
how so?
Well, if you hate your vagina, let's just say some women say, oh, my vagina, the lips are too, they're uneven, or they're too big, or maybe their clitoris is more larger size, then it doesn't look petite and little. So they literally, the surgeries, to reshape your vagina.
Right.
So if a woman doesn't feel beautiful there, she's going to be more stressed out. Basically, if you're not loving yourself in the like 24/7, it is going to affect your dryness. It's going to affect how you feel and enjoy yourself down there. And that's, so what I tell people is, if you had a child that was one ear bigger than I don't know, like I'm just saying, like, are you going to love them any less? Or if they have like a birthmark or something, are you going to love them any less? So then why would you love yourself any less? What if we could just love ourselves and trust that the Creator made us the way we were made on purpose? So this is where I've thought about, okay, what kind of beliefs can I have so that I love myself rather than hurt myself? Because it doesn't feel good for me to be so hard on myself. Like my legs, I used to think were chicken legs. My brother used to say that to me. And I was so upset that I don't have calves, you know. But then I thought, well, okay, I just have to be grateful. They're the only legs I have. And I mean...
And they work.
Yeah. And so, yeah, and just to be grateful. So let's just say I'm committing to being grateful for my vagina.
And so
start with that.
Have you had clients who like have never had an orgasm or have difficulty orgasming consistently, and they work with you and all of a sudden it's like the floodgates open? Maybe
yeah, of course. Well,
or squirting even too,
first and foremost, yeah, if everybody wants to just Google squirting and Michelle Alva, there's this awesome video on YouTube. 2 million viewers, 2.5 million on Apollonia Ponti's YouTube channel. And basically, so because I am a squirting woman and an orgasmic woman, just by me being sitting next to you, my aura, my frequency is emitting that energy. And so this is something that I learned. People are like, oh my God, you know, there's something about you. This is just so yummy. I mean, I have women come up to me and they're just like, I'll be anywhere. And they're like, oh my God, I love your energy. And then sometimes I'll say, well, I have a happy vagina. And then they just start laughing even more because I notice how the squirting, the whole body orgasming, there's something so sacred to me about it. It's such an opening and expansion and a surrender. And it's not something that I make happen. It just happens. So this is something where I wasn't like that most of my life.
Sure.
And I was scared in a way to let go. And I had this curiosity of, am I peeing on myself? You know, am I giving birth here? Did my placenta just, you know, the very first time it happened, I had no idea that women even squirt. And it was not something I was expecting and I even knew about.
And it can be kind of uncomfortable, right? I've heard it described as like a kind of an uncomfortable pressure that happens where women are like, they have to practice relaxation to allow it to happen.
Well, it just happened to me when I was making love. And I actually didn't know that was something that women experience. But the person that I was with said, oh, baby, you squirted. You know, like, yay, we're so close. It was so beautiful. And awesome. I felt like, it felt to me like giving birth. Like I gave birth to myself or something released in me.
Yeah.
And from that moment on, I was curious every time, you know, is this going to happen again? And so... my brain today is programmed for that to happen. You know, it's kind of interesting how I definitely see how differently the lifespan of my vagina history. It went from frozen, icy cold to Brasilera, Carnival, baby, you know. Woo! And I'm 46, so it's not true that as you age, your libido goes down. Heck no, I'm here to tell people that is so not true. I just think we get more stressed out and more in our heads, you know, as time goes by. So that's why Tantra is so great. But I had a female client that I was working with, and I wasn't even touching her in any sexual way. We were doing breathing, and she was actually sharing with me that she wanted to increase the flow of her sexual energy. So I was teaching her a breathing exercise, and she started to feel very hot. And she was also, she was like in her 60s. And she actually started crying. It was so cute. She put her hand close to her vagina, and she was like, oh my God, I feel she's moist. And she actually touched herself. She put her hand inside and she started crying. It was so cute because she felt liquidy, some type of liquids come through. And she said, I've never felt anything come out of there, you know, and it's from her vagina.
Sure.
So things have happened like that in the sessions where I have witnessed miracles, things that are not explainable, people's physiology shifting when they relinquish control. And so I'm excited, you know, at the possibilities for people. Nothing is ever a no. It's always, well, what else is possible? What could we create? And I really do believe that this sense of wonder and awe for the human body, which is mostly made of energy.
Right.
I really wish more people could be open to that, open to the wonder of what you are, because we're not going to get the wonder if we don't believe that we are wonderful.
I love it. I mean, I just can't sing your praises enough, because it's easy for me and other coaches to just talk about like mindset shit, like be open to possibilities. And you're bringing it into
open
like,
your tushy, open your
like to the fascia. You're like, hand on skin, and even if you're coaching people online or over the phone, like there's still some element, I would imagine, of them touching.
Well, people lay down. Yeah. First of all, when you do a coaching a session with me on the phone, my highest recommendation is to be naked. And we do this over the phone and you're in your bed. So I highly recommend people do that in the session, because then you're naked with yourself and naked on the session. And we amp up our energy, and I'm doing it with them over the phone. And it's incredible how aroused and how you can, through my own opening my body, with myself where I'm at and the client where they're at, we're so energetic. And so I have learned to have really healthy boundaries, and to just, my intention is pure. And I really feel I was meant to do this work, because people can feel where I'm at. And so if I was hitting on my client or trying to seduce my client,
right,
attempting to do something that wasn't clear, I'm sure that they would not get the same safety and feeling. And I even ask my clients, do you feel comfortable with me? Do you feel trust with yourself, that you can trust me? I'll even joke around and say, like, do you feel some clear energy here, or is it like hazy, shady? Because I could tell sometimes people are nervous.
Sure.
And another thing is, I think a lot of us associate our genitals with sex. Duh, right? So for some people, they have this epiphany, oh my goodness, I think this is what sensuality means, which sensuality is really, tapping into the senses and just really having this rich experience with yourself. But it doesn't necessarily have to be sexual. And a lot of times, if penis is being touched, we immediately go to sex. However, what if your girlfriend, let's just say, could just massage your testicles and your prostate area for your pure enjoyment of your own prostate enrichment? So many men have prostate problems, and for him not to have to be expected to have sex with her after, not that that's a bad thing,
right,
but sometimes I think men feel they have to something.
Sure.
And so what if you could start to bond with your partner more just to have fun? And then if the sexual thing arises naturally, great. And if not, great. And there's no pressure then. So then I think people would want to explore more.
Right.
At least that's my theory.
And it was such an intimate experience. I mean, when you were, teaching Jen, like, teaching her some of the massage strokes and stuff, and on our way back, she was like, I'm so surprised that like the attachment of the inner thigh to the pubic bone, right, or to the groin there was like, that spot to me, it just felt so good to get it touched. And it wasn't sexual at all. It wasn't even sensual. I mean, like, it was a long stroke, which was nice, but it was just kind of getting touched there. And it's like, well, yeah, no one touches there. Even if you go to like spas and stuff, like they're not going to get all the way up to the attachment. Yeah. And it's like, you have to be willing to get a flyby and get grazed and stuff. And like and like most places aren't going to do that. And yet like there's so much power there.
That was my whole thing. I was like,
dormant energy there.
Why don't we allow more of this type of touch?
Yeah. No wonder you don't have your physical therapy license anymore.
But in reality, what are we scared of here? Are we going to live like this to the year 3000?
Right.
When are we going to get caught up with sexuality matters?
Yeah.
Sexuality matters. That's my message. Your sex matters. I mean, I've had people that when they unite with their vagina, let's just say their relationship, they learn yoni massage and to really love themselves and to massage yourself, not because you're going to make yourself orgasm, but what if I could just massage myself because I want to love my vagina?
Right.
My vagina's been through a lot.
Right.
She was raped and she was molested. And I mean, all these things happen to women. What if it's not about the orgasm? What if you're just connecting? And what if it's not just your vagina? What if it's your breasts? Right. And you could massage your belly and you could massage your thighs and just love yourself and channel all that energy for yourself instead of sending it off to all these different men. This is totally me projecting, that don't even want to give it back, that don't want to receive it. So I learned from my own personal experience that I was looking for love in other people where it wasn't even there to be found.
Right.
But I'm so grateful all that happened to me, because I've been the one that I was looking for all along. And now I get to share that from a really firsthand experience. So ladies, don't expect any man to ever fulfill you. Be fulfilled, and then you will attract an amazing guy.
Right. And to defend some of those, to defend some men out there, like, they're not receiving a powerful woman isn't valued. It's not celebrated. That's not the picture of like malehood. It's like the picture of man is like the guy who's got to give and provide. And when you're watching porn, it's like they're jackhammering. And so the sort of the big kind of, if we're looking at sort of societal education of boys to men, is not like receive the powerful woman, like be sensitive to her touch, or like celebrate her power. It's like no, you got to like be the man and like walk it off and brush it off. And it's like all of that kind of shit, so it's like, it's not even necessarily that a guy like wouldn't want to receive it. It's that they oftentimes don't know how, and that's where I think that this work that you're doing is so important. It's like both one-on-one and, when you're teaching couples how to do that, how to be with each other,
I think
and like,
too, like the Disney movies, they really screwed me up.
Oh, for sure.
The damsel in distress and the
same
guy.
thing with the guys. The guy's got to be the rescuer and the savior.
The minute you meet the prince, you marry him right away. It's like, really, seriously, folks, we need to make a different kind of Disney, because all those children are being programmed. I mean, it's so true.
The client of mine in New York is, her book is coming out now. It's called Feminist Fairy Tales. So she's taken some of the fairy tales and she's rewritten them from a feminist perspective.
That's awesome.
Yeah. It's like, I think one of the jokes was something like, the sleeping princess, and the guy comes to like kiss the sleeping princess, and it's like,
and then he marries her.
Yeah, and it's like, that's date rape. Like, she's passed out, she's asleep. Like, you can't kiss her,
So funny. Oh my God.
Anyway, Michelle, this has been awesome. Tell the people how they can find you. All the things.
MichelleAlva.com, MichelleAlv, as in vagina, a.com. And definitely, if you want to learn more about my YouTube, these awesome videos, just go to Michelle Alva TV on YouTube and reach out to me. If anything we spoke about touched you, I would love to know how is it benefiting you. I'm on a mission here, and I definitely need some support. No, I'm just kidding. Awesome. I feel very supported, but I offer the 15-minute clarity calls for anybody that wants to learn more about how to work with me, or if you just want to ask a question. This is something else I love to do. You can ask me anything, and I'll hold space for that, because that in and of itself can be so healing for people.
Yeah.
So.
Awesome. Well, I'm so thankful for you. You married us.
Love you, Jen.
You taught her how to massage me and me massage her. So just thank you for all that you do. Everyone, take her up on her offer.
Pleasure.
She's amazing. And we want happy vaginas as happy penises and
happy world. Perfect.
All right. We'll see you next time.
Awesome.